is Saeed. I'm a co-founder of the organization Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar. This is a non-profit grassroots environmental organization based in Qatar. We've been here in the country for the last 5 years, and we are a registered entity who's trying really hard to shift the environmental discourse in the country, to work on issues that is pertinent that we are facing and confronting today on climate change and many other invisible environmental crises that we are seeing. So our idea is to kind of bring light to all these environmental issues, to general public, and to work with policymakers how we can develop more inclusive and forward-looking policy. Ask everyone to that you can get back to us after the presentation. So we are in, just that's about our organization, and we are run people except me, and all of them being active, trying to work on different arenas of environmental issues. And we invite leading environmental thinkers to Doha to talk about issues, and then we work on a range of programs where we publish policy briefings, reports, peer-reviewed published articles on environmental issues in Qatar and the region. And this household carbon footprint is one of flagship initiatives of AYCM Qatar. And this project has been in the making for the last 2 years, and the pandemic has delayed. And else, we plan to start this initiative in 2019 with our partners, UNESCO, Ministry of Public Health, Ministry of Education, and Supreme Committee of Delivery and Legacy. But the pandemic has pushed the dates, and we've just been waiting until the schools are back online. When I say fully functional in campus, so that the students can take part in this program. If you are not talking, really appreciate it. Thank you. Not many people are familiar what carbon footprint is. Just want to give a bit of idea about it. And carbon footprint is been in a concept that's been available for the last 15-20 years. It's mostly this discussion kind of revolves within environmentalists, but only in the last few years, this idea has spilled over to everyone. Everyone sees and hears about this in daily newspapers as well. It's the idea is just to kind of has this one particular number that kind of captures everything about your impact on the local and global environment. It measures everything that you consume, in the form of energy, water, food, fuel, etc. in your house, in your activities. And again, the carbon footprint is not just only that you can measure only for you as an individual. It could measure as a household, as a nation, as a city, and as global. That's what this carbon footprint does. So you can actually capture the entirety of your impact on the local and global environment. Not only it measures all that you consume, it also measures everything that you generate, waste in the form of emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, wastewater, as well as in terms of the solid waste, which includes plastic, organic or inorganic waste plastic, glass, etc. And also this number is so unique, it's very simple, where you can compare your results with anyone else who has done this study. You can compare your results with your nephew, with your aunt, with your uncle, and see that how well or how bad they each are doing compared to others. So you can compare this with national averages and also with international averages to see whether you're doing pretty well or not. This is kind of a very easy way to measure your activities at your household. And again, human beings being responsible for climate change, that has been conclusively proven, through scientific research, and even in the latest published reports by IPCC, which is the authoritative organization on climate change, has said that we are in a code red warning. That's what they have given, that if we don't take action on climate change, then the humanity's survival is at stake. And as humankind is we've been all familiar how much we pollute our environment, some pollution which is visible, the waste that we see there, and some pollution that we see it's invisible, that's like which disappears in the thin air, but it has very long-term consequences, like the greenhouse gas warming effect. Like it's not just happens immediately in your vicinity, but like it has a long-term consequences, like it goes up until 100 to 1,000 years as well. So that's something that like this study tried to capture part of that footprint that you have on local as well as global environment. So this survey is anonymous. That the survey is a kind of a result of trying to understand the household profile of consumption as well as waste generation, because there is no study being done so far in the country as well as in this region. So we are very proud that like this is the first study of a kind that we are doing it, and that's why the Ministry of Education, the Public Health see there is a huge relevance, and we need data in order to kind of create a better campaigns and better measures, and also to design good policies that can address that. And since there is no data, there is no baseline data, it's very difficult for us to do anything. And we thought like, let's conduct a survey and with young students, because they really need to understand what's happening in the households. Like you can explain abstractly about like, resource consumption, about the impact of plastic, but until they don't really get that value, the information about it, so they will not able to see the impact directly. So that's why this initiative is kind of born out of as a result of our discussion, and see that how we can capture that information, create a baseline data. And this survey is kind of anonymous entirely, like we don't ask anything about the households, like anyone who's about their email address, their phone number, the ID card details, their household location, everything. We don't ask any details that reveals identity. Also, it is completely voluntary. We don't force any school member, like schools or like teachers or students to participate in this program. It is completely voluntary, but we strongly encourage them that why the participating in the survey is very important, both for students, for household, and as well as for schools. And since this survey requires quite a lot of work, and like it is important that like you get parents consent. I'm sure that like you meet with your students' parents, like during the parents teachers meetings. Please inform them about the survey, get their consents, and ask them to encourage them to be part of the study. And also the study is only about for 12 years old. And again, like, since this week, like, we have trained almost 300 to 400 teachers, and everyone was asking, like, can we do it for lesser than 12 years old, because they feel that their students are quite smart and like they can handle the survey. And again, it is up to students, up to teachers and the school's responsibility and discretion, whether you can do this or not. And we thought like, about 12 years old will be a kind of a more responsible age for them to do this one, because they have the cognition ability and the commitment to do this one. And also, like, the survey, one survey for each household. Like, imagine like in your school, like in your class, like if you have 2-3 students from the same family, from household brothers and sisters, you can ask them to do only one survey, because if 2 of them or 3 of them doing it, then it's counted as it's considered as double counting. So make sure that like that it's only one survey for each household. And the survey is already started, like, the website and the app both are ready, and like, but it will go up until 1st of March, because people need time to kind of collect all the information and put this data together. And so we kind of open the survey up until 1st of March. So your guidance and like parents assistance is required to like filling out the survey, because again it is a lot of work that needs to be required. So I appreciate like you could provide all this guidance and support to them. Unlike many surveys, like that you have faced, like during your own time, like as a faculty, as a teacher, or as a student, like surveys usually take like quickly, like you open the link and like you fill the details and you're done with that one. But unlike the many other surveys, this one like takes 1 month. Because it takes 1 month to collect all the data that you need. I will explain to you each information about the data that we need. And it will just take only 5 minutes to fill all the information that you have collected over the period of 1 month, and you will get instant results about your carbon footprint. And we are looking for almost like 1,800 to 2,000 households to get a good representation of about Qatar, like because we have so many different nationalities, like with different socioeconomic backgrounds. So we really need to kind of like get a good sense of how different households kind of consume and produce waste in the country. Okay, and like this carbon footprint is not just like only collecting the data. That's only one step, like where we get this baseline information. But the next part is like, where we're going to do this community engagement, where the students, their parents, like, they will interact with their grandparents and with the other classmates and try to understand things that they have taken for granted. Is this the way that we really need to consume? Do we really need to consume so much of water and energy? Is there some other way that we can change it? Like, and what challenges they face and what barriers they face in order to change their behavioral practices. Like, because changing behaviors is not easy. Changing behaviors, like, if you're kind of attached to a certain way of doing things, it's not really easy at all. So we wanted to, the community will come forward and together and to deeply reflect our ways of consumption and find out what's the best way we could change and what are the things that we could change. And each family is different, and like, each family thinks that we can do X, Y, Z, and some other family will say like we can just do A, B, C. So we wanted the community to come forward and try to see what's best could work, so that they could reduce the carbon footprint of their households. So once they're done with that, like, engaging with all other people in the classrooms or in their households, then we're going to see that whatever the solutions that they have identified in the focus group discussions, then they will come up solutions like that they have implemented in their household over a period of 6 months, and then they have seen, oh, what is our carbon footprints now? Like, we tried to replace, like, instead of using AC all throughout the year, we replace AC with a fan, like, for 4 months, and we have seen that, like, in our carbon footprint from electricity consumption has come down. We reduce our water, we reuse part of the water. So all these initiatives that the students, the households have taken, they will implement it and they will come up with solutions. And then we will host an exhibition along with our partners, the Ministry of Public Health and Ministry of Education, by the end of by almost like October next year, where they will demonstrate their results. And this is a timeline of these 3 phases. The survey will go up until February, like that's 1st of March, and the next phase will immediately start, like where March to June we will have all the focus group discussions with school students and other family members to talk about that one. And what incentives the schools and teachers, everyone will get is that, like, for students primarily, because they are the active agents in this process. The students, if each school is different in rewarding the students, like if they take part in some creative initiatives. And so we just providing offers, suggestions, like, again, it's up to you, like as a teacher, like you can think about like providing extra grades for participating in the study, or giving them some special honor in the schools, like mentioning them in the assembly, whatever it is, like that you feel fit, like you can always use that one. And from our end, like, the students that they have completed the first phase, that they have shown the results, teacher, we have completed this one. So all the teachers, all the students will get a participation certificate from us. And as well as a special award and certification will be given for the students who have participated in all the 3 phases, like in workshops and exhibitions. And for teachers, I understand it's a lot of work in addition to the burden that you carry with the grading and everything. And we know that this is a challenge that you're going to face. And we thought like we will provide small incentives. I know it's not enough, but still, like, we don't really know how else like we could reward you for all the support that you're providing. So the teachers will, like, who manage to get at least 100 students, like, from the class or like, from the school. So we'll get like, a special eco teacher plaque for the teachers, and also the appreciation certificate. And like, I know some schools doesn't have so many students, but if they still manage to get some students to participate in the survey, they will get an appreciation certificate from us and the partners. And for schools like who manage to get like more than 100 students and collaborate engagingly in all the 3 phases, they will get a Best School Award at the end of the initiative. And you as a teacher, like, your role, the reason why we are here today is just like, so that we can explain the whole carbon footprint initiative, and so that you can encourage the students to participate in the survey and tell them why is it important for them to engage and participate, and their role of learning and understanding their consumption and their way that they consume and produce waste. And it's very important, like you as a teacher, like you have better ways to engage students, and you really know how to do that one. And I don't have the ability to interact with the students, but like you do. And so that's why we just want you to encourage the students and like ask them about like those who have voluntarily agreed to participate in the survey, ask them about like in every 2 weeks, like how far they have gone through, if they have any challenges, like if they have any questions, concerns, they can always get back to you or get back to us directly, I mean like through you, so that we can help them and if they have any questions to respond. And also like just inform the teachers, I mean like the parents about the survey during the parents teachers meeting, and encourage them to participate in future workshops and exhibitions as well. So where to find the survey? There will, I mean like it's on our website, on Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar website, and as well as like we developed an app because many students are more familiar with using mobile phones, so we have developed a special app where this survey will be found. We will send you these details to you on Sunday morning with all the details, everything, the recorded webinar and a presentation both in English and Arabic, so that like you can go through it again before you share with the students. Okay. So what you need, like, you need weighing machine, then like you need all the grocery bills for a month, and then like you need Kahama bills, and then like you need smartphone, and a little bit of patience and commitment from students as well as teachers. And I will explain why you need all these 4 things and plus patience, like in order to do that one. So the first part of the survey answers like in a few generic questions about them, about their households, like whether it's a villa or is it like an apartment or shared apartment, anything, and like what's the area of the households, like some people live in a bigger villas, whereas some lives in a small apartments, and also the household income. I know it is a very challenging, but again, since we don't ask any details about the families, like their name or details, so we will not even know like who sets their family income as. So because it's very important to understand, like when we do analysis, how the different income households carbon footprint is relevant, like when you do statistical analysis. So it is very important. So you need to, when the parents ask them, you can just tell them we don't even know who's filling out the survey. So it's perfectly fine. So if they fill out this information, and the municipality they live in, like different municipalities, and then the education. Again, the education is directly relevant to our sustainable actions or not. That's something that we need to figure it out. And so it's very important, like how education drives sustainability in households, and then the composition of households, the number of people in their family, because we are looking as a whole households when we are measuring this carbon footprint. So it is important for us to know how many people are in each household. And the first part of the emissions that we are going to measure is like the domestic transport emissions, which includes like our car transport, because we don't have any other mobility, like only metro. Again, very small number are using it, so we focus more on domestic transport emissions. So what we need to do is that we need to find out number of cars in our households. Like some people have only one, whereas some families may have like 5 to 10 cars as well. So the students must list all the number of cars that they have in their household, and then get the estimara. I'm sure that the mom or dad, brother, anyone who's there, ask them to get the estimara, because the estimara provides all the details. We are not asking the number of estimara, just the details about the car, like the manufacturing year of the car, number of cylinders, because it all determines, like the SUV car's emissions is much higher than a sedan car. So this estimara will provide all these details, like when filling out the survey. And then say for instance, I'm going to start the survey on November 25th to December 25th. So ask your students, anyone who's driving the car in the household, just to keep a track record on how much fuel they consume, like in that particular month. Car 1 consumes like 120 liters of fuel, car 2 consumes like this much, because these details are important for us to measure emissions. And the final one is measuring the odometer's distance traveled, because in each month, again, it depends on family to family. Some people live like very close to work and school. Some people live very far. So we need to see how much distance that they have traveled in each month. So for each car, like the student must take a picture. Like say for instance, on November 25th morning, he took a picture of car 1 to car N, and keeping a track record, save that file. And on December 25th, he took a picture again of the same car, of all the other cars as well, and subtract the value of the final to the previous one. So he will see that how much each car has traveled on that particular month. So that kind of gives us a general idea how much family travels in each month for different households. So that's the first phase of the survey, where we're going to estimate the domestic transport emissions. And the second phase is the international travel emissions. So this one is not just only for data for only 1 month, it's for the whole year, because not everyone travel each month. So we travel in a year, like to see our family, to go for holidays or do any other activities, or business, like, your father or mother will be traveling for business. Those things we need to keep track record of it. So what we need is, like, enough, say for instance in 2020, 2021, because the COVID has disrupted our international travel plans. So we're going to look at for 2021, how many people have traveled, number of air travels, and where they have traveled, like, different cities that they have traveled, and the number of people travel in their households. Like, for instance, like, the father might have traveled five times, like, to London, like, for business, and likewise mother and everyone else traveled only one time to Turkey for a holiday. So those things, like, they just need to keep in record. And then the final one is about business and economy. Again, why we asked this one, because the business travel emissions are like almost 3 to 4 times more than people traveling in economic class. So that's why we wanted that one. Like, if people have traveled all the times in business, they need to record that information as well. The next comes the electricity and water, and, like, here for the electricity and water consumption, this is where you're going to find these details. So things that you need is a smartphone, the electricity number, and the CR number for non-Qatari families, because, like, they can't have their own households here, so that's why they need a CR number for non-Qataris, an ID card for Qatari households. Like, the head of the household will have their house registered under the name, so the electricity number and this detail will be found there. And so for CR number, you can ask, like, anyone. For non-Qataris, you can ask your landlords, like, or the building manager. Many people don't pay the bills, the company pays them, so you can ask the building manager to give the details about this one, so that they can keep track record of it. So they can go to this Karama app, like, they can download in both iOS as well as Android. And once they download the app, like, this is where they're going to find the electricity number. Again, this the red plate that they see, that's the electricity number. And you can find this information, like, in households in different places. If it's in a villa, like, you will find in another place, but you will find this information in each and every household. Okay, and the green circle that you highlighted, that's the electricity number. So once you put all the details, like your CR or ID number along with electricity number, this is the landing page of the app, which will give you an information about your electricity consumption and water consumption. So the blue one that you see here, this is the electricity consumption for 6 months. Like, it will give you, like, how much that you have consumed, the 6 meter cube. Like, we are not looking for monetary value because electricity is subsidized, so that will not reflect actual value. So we are looking for actual number of consumption, like, the 6 meter cube or kilowatt hour. This is what we are looking for, that information. So you can find, if you're living in an apartment or a villa for more than a year, for long term, because you need to make sure you've been in that apartment for 1 year, so that you collect the data for whole 1 year. So how you can get that one? Once you click previous bill, it will give you the list of, like, the whole months, like, and the year as well. So if I click, like, say for instance, I'm starting my survey on November 25th. So what I can go is that, like, I click previous bill, it will give you 2020, and from November and move back again all the way up until November 2021, you can get all the details, like the one that you've seen here in the chart. So again, the consumption varies depending upon the households. Like, it will go as high as, like, 20 for me, like, as low as 3, because I'm just consuming very little on that particular month for various reasons. So this information they have to get for both electricity and water. Okay. And the next one is about, like, fuel consumption. Again, like, what are the fuel, like, some households consume, like, both electricity and as well as, like, electric cooking, as well as, like, they use our Shafaf cylinder for cooking. Again, this generates emissions, so we really need to know how much they consume. Again, the students may not know this answer. Definitely they can ask their mother or the housemaid, anyone who's cooking their household, how many cylinders they use on an average per month, like, both 6 or 12 kilograms of Shafaf cylinders. So they can keep, it's just an estimate, so they can get that information. Like, is it 2 cylinders we consume? Again, it depends on the number of households. Like, in a family that has, like, 14 members, you're going to consume quite a lot of cylinders because you have to cook for so many people. So, but if a family with only 2-3 people, you're not going to consume that much. So you need to just keep that idea. Then the part of the waste, this is the most challenging one. We totally understand, and it's going to be very difficult, but we do realize that it's very important for people that we have taken for granted the amount of the waste that we generate. Again, like there are different kinds of waste. One is organic waste, which includes everything like vegetable, fruits, peelings, like scraps, and then leftover food. If you have a garden, all that includes like the garden waste, everything. And then like on inorganic waste, which includes plastic, paper waste, and other waste, like which includes electronic, textiles, all of them. So what you need to do is that, like, this is the challenging part. We have created a spreadsheet which will be available on the app as well as like on the website, where they can download that information. What they need to do is that, like, I'm starting my survey on November 25th, so that's the day one. So I need to segregate the waste in these 4 categories, like for each day. You can ask the maid or anyone like who's cooking or who's managing their kitchen, ask them to segregate the waste, like use the plastic bags that you get in the shopping malls. So ask them to segregate. What they need to do before they throw the waste, just measure that one for each of that bag. This will tell you that like how much you consume. And like even me, who's an ardent environmentalist, I do the study regularly to make sure that like, whether I consume very little, how can I reduce my consumption? And to my surprise, like, I waste quite a lot. And like, I always try to find a ways to reduce it. So this will help the students as well as the household to see how much waste they generate and how much impact they have on the local environment, which they don't see because waste is cleared off from the bins every single day here. It's not on the street, so we don't even see it. So we don't see it as a problem, but like, the problem is dislocated to somewhere else. So, and creates a huge problem, not now, like, perhaps 5 years, 10 years in the future. So it's very important for students and households to really measure and know it before that one. So the spreadsheet that we have created, that will automatically calculate for the whole month, and you can take that value and use that in the survey to get that one. The final thing is the grocery bills. Again, like everything that we consume, food, like has footprint, like, in terms of like the cereals, the meat and fish and all the dairy products. We just chose only 4 categories. We left out many other things because it will be way too difficult for us to measure. So we just picked up one of the few main things that we see it's important, particularly like some of the things that, like if you consume beef more, like, the beef is like almost like, 14 times more emission intensive than like consuming fish. So it's just far too much of consumption. So we really need to measure like how families, like different families consume meat. Some families, they don't consume meat at all. They're vegetarians, they don't consume. So it's kind of very important for us to know how the food contributes to the emissions as well. So that's the final thing. Once they put all the results, I mean like all the data, and they click submit, then they will get this page called with the instant results. I will explain why there's 2 things there. The instant results will give you an idea that your total emissions, like, this is the total amount of emissions that you generate as a household in that particular year, because we're going to average your food waste, your domestic transport, everything, average it for the whole 1 year. And so you're going to get the total data for 1 year of emissions. And also, since you kind of segregate all these different emission sectors, so it will give you which sector contributes most emissions. So like in my case or someone else's case, it's international flights, whereas someone else, it will be water or like, electricity. So it all depends on, it differs on family to family. So ask your students, once they get these results after filling out 1 month, to save this information. They will get a unique ID number and the barcode, the QR code to save this data, like, for 2 months. The reason is that, like, because we don't have any baseline data to measure how well we are doing comparatively with their friends, with the family, or at a national level as well. So what we're going to do, what we've done is that, like, we're going to compare our results, like after 2-3 months, once like all the schools have filled out the survey, like say for instance until March, like, then we will have the results to compare ours with with the national average. So that's a delayed results. They used to have they need to use this unique identification number to put that on the same website, and then they will get something like this one, where it will show that how well they are doing, like, and in this case, like my emissions is like only 25% of the national average emissions. This is just a sample, but like, we will get an accurate results, like once we are done with the first phase of the initiative. And also what it will do is that this is like overall, this is the national average, and this is the average, my emissions comparison with the national average. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to compare my results with, as well as like with all the families who has similar number of households. Like for instance, my household is only 2 people or only 1 person. My emission will be so different than of emission of a person like who has 10 family members. So I can't really just like assume that like I'm doing better. So I need to compare my results with everyone, like with a single family household or 10 family household. That will give you an idea whether even when comparison with all the families, like with similar number of households, whether my emissions are same or not. And if it's high, and then it will give you results like this one. If it's high, then it will tell you that like your household's emissions compared to national average is almost like 4.3 times more. My emissions, my household emission is like almost 5 times more than all the families like who have similar number of households. This give you an idea like how good or bad they are performing, like in terms of the carbon footprint. So they have a lot of work that they need to do in order to reduce the carbon footprint. So this is the kind of results that they will get like once they completed the study, and after 2 months they will get these delayed results, and then we will engage the students in the next phase of focus group discussions, workshops with the families and everyone. So we will find out what's the best way to reduce the carbon footprint, how we can contribute to global and natural environment. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can always come back to me, and I'm the project in charge of this one. And so you have my email address, and like you can always get back. You can write back to me, and on Sunday morning I will send you all the details and everything. You can watch the recording of this webinar before you talk to your students, as well as on the website, as well as on the app. We have developed a video like where this whole thing will be shown in a much more professional way with all the motion graphics in the background and everything, so the students can watch that information. So while filling out the survey, you can ask your parents to be together, the students' parents to be together to fill out the survey. If they have any doubts, they can always write back to us. And thank you, and I'm really glad that you